Hey guys, this is Sergeant Phoenix back in the action, and today we are on another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. And I did say on the last one I choose either Zark or Ancient Gears, so I've chosen Zark. Reason being, I'm actually going to work on the Ancient Gear deck a little bit more to give you a good idea, but I've used everyday cards like the Zark one. This is a simple Zark deck. So, as usual, we have our monsters, our spells, our traps, then we have the extra deck. So, let's go. First, we have 2 Supreme King Dragon Dark Worm. And its pendulum's effects are, once per turn, if you control no monsters, you can place 1 Supreme Gate Pendulum monster from your deck in your pendulum zone. Also, you cannot pendulum summon monsters for the rest of the turn except dark monsters. Then we have its monster effect. Hold on. There you go. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add a Supreme Gate card Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. If this card is in your graveyard and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card this way, and you can only use the effect of this card though once per turn, so you couldn't use both of them. And the only reason I got 2 is, well, I have 3, but I only used 2 because that's all I ever needed. Next we have Supreme King Gate 0. And what makes the gate so supreme is that the second one's scale is interesting, because as you can see, this one has 0, so it gives you a good advantage if you're playing certain ones. Now, its pendulum effect, if you control Supreme King Zark, you take no battle damage once per turn. If you have Supreme King Gate Infinity in your other pendulum zone, you can destroy both cards in your pendulum zone, and if you do, add 1 polymerization spell card or fusion spell card from your deck to your hand. And then its monster effect. Hold on. There we go. Once per turn, you can target one other face-up card you control, destroy both it and this card, and if you do, special summon 1 dragon-type fusion or synchro monster from your extra deck. If this, but its attack and defense becomes 0, it has its effects negated. Also, it cannot be used as a material for a synchro or Xyz. If this card in the monster zone is destroyed by battle or card effects, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. They all have very distinct abilities, because they're based on summoning Zark and adding the other Supreme King forms as well. If you don't know who Zark is, he's the main bad guy of the Arc vibe on Yu-Gi-Oh! When they invent pendulums. And if you don't know who he is, look at the backstory. It's quite a simple but quite intriguing one. He was the most powerfulest duelist. He had, and then he became on a rampage, and then he created his card by fusing with his dragons to become the Supreme King Dragon Zark. And but he was stopped, and the rest I can't tell you just in case. I don't want to spoil it. So back to this. Supreme King Gate Infinity, and as you see, it's a 13. So with the 0 and Infinity, you could summon monsters that are 1 to 12, so it does give you an unfair advantage. And its effects are these. If you control a monster, you cannot pendulum summon this effect cannot be negated. Once per turn, if you control Supreme King Zark, you can target 1 face monster your opponent controls, gain life points equal to its attack. So with 0 and Infinity, it can give you a very powerful combo with that, because not only will it stop you taking damage once per turn, but it lets you gain more life points even if your opponent finds a way to destroy Zark. Which has been almost impossible, but I managed to do it with my Time Lords, even my Ancient Gears, because I managed to summon Chaos Giants on the last turn before my opponent ended up doing that. Because I played 0 Gravity on him just before he activated Zark's effect. Because 0 Gravity changes card modes, so it switched it to defense. So back to its monster ability. Once per turn, you can target one other face-up card you control, destroy both it and this card, and if you do, special summon one dragon-type Xyz or pendulum monster from your extra deck, but its attacks and defense become 0. Also, it has its effects negated. Also, it cannot be used as a material for a Synchro or Xyz summon. If this card is in your monster zone, if this card is in your monster zone, is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can place it in your pendulum zone instead. So the gates are relying on you getting more cards. But I don't have a link for these yet, but if you can get a good link that can let you use it, I'd recommend it. But the problem is, you won't be able to get a powerful enough link because of their effects. And the reason I'm saying their effects because Supreme, hold on, I think it's Supreme Rage, you could, in the old days when pendulums were the main thing, you could summon up to 5 monsters in one turn. But you can't anymore. But you'd need Zark to do it. So this is where you would have to beg your friend to play pendulum rules if you wanted to play that combo. I have it in this deck, but that's just for presentation. Next we have 2 Odd Eyes Phantom Dragons, scale 4s, and its pendulum effect once per turn when an attack is declared involving your face-up monster and an opponent's monster. If you have an Odd Eyes card in your other pendulum zone, you can make that monster you control gain 1200 attack until the end of the battle phase, even if this card leaves the field. And its monster effect, when this pendulum summon card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by attacking, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the number of Odd Eyes cards in your great pendulum zone times 1200. You can only use the effect of Odd Eyes Phantom Dragon once per turn. So technically, if you had this and you had 2 more of these in the pendulum zone, just saying, you'd pretty much deal 2400 to them in one turn. It is quite a lot. Not enough what I've seen, but still not bad. Next we have Odd Eyes Persona Dragon, scale 1, and its ability, once per turn during the end phase, if your opponent activated a card or effect this turn that targeted an Odd Eyes pendulum monster you control and no other cards, while this card is in your pendulum zone, special summon this card, and if you do, place one face-up Odd Eyes pendulum monster from your extra deck to your pendulum zone, except this one. So that can protect your monster. So it's a monster effect once per turn, and this is a quick effect, as it says. You can target one face-up monster on the field that was special summoned from the extra deck. It has its effects negated until the end of this turn. So this is a bargain deck, so it's not very powerful since they have the new link rules, but you could still use it. But even though I have Supreme Rage in, I wouldn't use it unless you play pendulum rules. Next we have Odd Eyes Mirage Dragon, scale 8, and its effect once per turn, if a face-up Odd Eyes pendulum monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effects, you can destroy one card in your pendulum zone, and if you do, place one one Odd Eyes pendulum monster from your extra deck in your pendulum zone except this one. These Odd Eyes are built on working together. And its monster effect, while an Odd Eyes card is in your pendulum zone, quick effect, you can target one Odd Eyes monster you control. The first time it would be destroyed by battle or card effect this turn, it is not destroyed. You can only use the effects of this card once per turn. So like I've said, it's designed to work together. Now I'm going to show you what makes this deck really powerful and can summon Zark easily, but now if you haven't read the ban list, this card is officially banned from tournaments now. And I'm actually glad it is, and nearly every duelist is. Known as Astrograph Sorcerer. And the reason it is because it's a 1 scale and it's pendulum effect. During your main phase, you can destroy this card, and if you do, take 1 Stargazer Magician from your hand or deck and either place it in your pendulum zone or special summon it. You can only activate this once per turn. It's a monster effect, which is definitely overpowered. If a card or cards you control is destroyed by battle or card effects, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can choose 1 monster in your graveyard or extra deck, or that is banished and that was destroyed this turn, and add 1 monster with the same name from your deck to your hand. Its other effect, you can banish this card you control plus 4 monsters from the hand, field, and or graveyard, 1 each with Pendulum Dragon, Xyz Dragon, Synchro Dragon, a Fusion Dragon, with their names and their names. So technically, that you would have to banish Dark Rebellion, Xyz Dragon, Odd Eye, Starving Venom, Fusion Dragon, Odd Eyes, Pendulum Dragon, and Clearwing Synchro Dragon, along with this one, to special summon 1 Supreme King Dragon Zark from the extra deck, and this is treated as a fusion summon. So as you can see, and this card is shown on the anime, so when he summons it, he summons everything back, and his effect, by banishing that, along with the 4 dragons he used originally, he can fuse them together to form his his Supreme King form. What he used to destroy, which he used last time. Next we have Dragon Caller Magician. It's pendulum effect and it's a scale 2. Once per turn, you can target 1 face-up monster on the field. It becomes a dragon type until the end of this turn, of your opponent's turn, even if this card leaves the field. Next, it's monster effect. Once per turn, you can make this card become a dragon type until the end of this turn. A monster that was Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz summoned using this card on the field as a material gains this effect. If this card battles a dragon type monster, this card's attack becomes double until it's double its original attack during the damage step only. So technically, if I was to use, let's say, Starving Fusion Dark Rebellion, and I use that, if I turned it into a level 4, I could double its attack points to 5,000, even though I've given it a power boost if I've used its overlay units to summon that. So it is a good one. And I'm putting these 2 together. Time Gazer Magician and Stargazer Magician. 1 and 8. These, and if you don't know, these are the original pendulums we saw, other than Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. What Yusaku created, not Yusei, sorry. That's 5D and that P. So first we'll start with Stargazer. It's pendulum effect. If a pendulum monster you control battles, your opponent cannot activate spell cards until the end of the damage step, unless you have a Magician card or an Odd Eyes card in your other pendulum zone. This card's scales become 4. So that's where you would need Time Gazer or another one. Once it's monster effect, once per turn, when exactly 1 other pendulum monster you control, in brackets, and no other cards, is returned to your hand by an opponent's card effect, except during the damage step, you can special summon 1 monster from your hand with the same name as that returned to the hand. So it's a decent effect, and this is why you would need this, because it's pendulum effect. You must control no monsters to activate this card. If a pendulum monster you control, so technically you would have to make sure you have no monsters to put that in the pendulum zone. And its other effects. If a pendulum monster you control battles, your opponent cannot activate traps until the end of the damage step, unless you have a face, and like the other one, unless you have a face-up pendulum or magician or a odd eyes card in the other pendulum zone, its scales become 4. Sorry, I nearly forgot to read its monster effect. And its monster effect, each time the first card or cards in your pendulum zone that would be destroyed in battle by an opponent's card effects is not destroyed. So if your opponent tried to play Heavy Storm, that stops it. Also, those cards do work together really well. Next we have the 4, I call these the remnants of the dragons. The reason being is because I'll read their effects. So I'll read this one first. Double Iris Magician. So it's a pendulum effect. Once per turn, you can target one dark spellcaster type monster you control, apply this effect to it, then destroy this card. Once applied, double any battle damage that monster inflicts to your opponent this turn if it battles an opponent's monster. Its monster effect. This card is always treated as a pendulum dragon card. And as the others, they all possess that different ability. One an Xyz, one a fusion, and one a synchro. So even if you didn't have the 4-dimensional dragons, if they were gone, you could just use these guys instead, since they would be treated as those cards. And its other effects, if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effects, you can add one pendulum graph card from your deck to your hand. And those are spells. Second one, Black Fang Magician. It's pendulum effect. Once per turn, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Its attack becomes half its current attack until the end of this turn, then destroy this card. Its monster effect, and this one is treated as an Xyz Dragon card. And if this card is destroyed by battle or card effects, you can target one dark spellcaster type monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So you could still use other effects, like I've said. Next we have White Wing Magician. And its pendulum effect, once per turn, when an activated card or effect resolves that targets a dark spellcaster type monster you control, negate that effect, then destroy this card. Hold on, let me just sort this. There you go. It's pendulum effect, and it's also a tuner, which can really help you out. As it leaks, so this is treated as the Synchro Dragon card. If this pendulum summon card is used for a Synchro summon, banish it. So it has its ups and downs. And next we have Purple Poison Magician. And as you can imagine, which card it will be treated as. Once per turn, if your dark spellcaster type monster battles before damage calculation, you can activate this effect. That monster gains 1200 attack until the end of the damage step, then destroy this card. And its monster effect, as you already know, it's treated as a fusion dragon. If this card is destroyed by battle or by card effects, you can target one face-up card in the field and destroy it. So they all have based around on their effects, except the White Wing one. They're all based around the dimensional dragons, as you see. And next we have Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. Its effects are, first pendulum, you can reduce the battle damage you take from an attack involving a pendulum monster you control to 0. During the end phase, you can destroy this card, and if you do, add a pendulum monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand, and you can only activate the effect of this, or you can only use a pendulum effect. Yeah, you can only use this a pendulum effect once per turn. And this card's attack ability is pretty simple. If this card battles an opponent's monster, any battle damage this card inflicts, it's doubled instead. So if I would normally deal 500 points, it'd be 1000. Next we have the first of the Supreme Kings, Supreme King Dragon Odd Eyes. And as you can see, if you look at the comparisons, it almost looks the same, but this one's more eviler, like, because that's what Zark's Supreme King deck does. It destroys the old ones of its form and brings life to it, like the Malefics, to destroy the good side of them, to bring life to their evil halves. Because Zark is, you know, the dark side of the cards. Like Darth Sidious, except he doesn't shoot lightning out of his hands. And he doesn't have a red lightsaber. So its pendulum effect, you contribute 1 Supreme King Dragon monster, destroy this card, and if you do, add 1 pendulum monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand. So it still supports them. Now its pendulum effect, you contribute 2 Supreme King Dragon monsters, special summon this card from your hand. If your pendulum monster in battles an opponent's monster, any battle damage they take is doubled during the end phase, and this is a quick effect, you contribute this card, special summon up to 2 face-up Supreme King Dragons and or Supreme King Gates, pendulum monsters from your extra deck in defense position, except Supreme King, this one. And that, actually, is where these two come in handy, because you can use these two for summoning the Synchro, the Pendulum, the Fusion, and the Xyz. Because that's what they do, that's what they're based on. And I'll probably have to do a part 2 for this, because it's still quite a while to go. So next we have Duelist Alliance. This card is... So if there is a card in your Pendulum Zone, add a Pendulum monster or Pendulum spell or trap from your deck to your hand, and you can only activate this once per turn. I have 2 of these, just in case. Next we have Pendulum Storm, and this lets you destroy as many Pendulum Zone cards in your Pendulum Zone as possible, then destroy 1 spell or trap your opponent controls. So you could still use them on the gateways. So next we have Pendulum Impenetrable. And this turn, its effect, cards in your Pendulum Zone cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Also, negate the effects activated by your opponent that target cards in your Pendulum Zone. Next we have Star Pendulum Graph. Its effect, your opponent cannot target spellcaster type monsters you control with spell cards or effects. If a face-up Magician Pendulum Monster card leaves the Monster Zone or Pendulum Zone, add a Magician Pendulum Monster from your deck to your hand, and you can only activate this once per turn. Next we have Pot of Riches, and this lets you shuffle 3 Pendulum Monsters into your deck, then from your graveyard or face up in your extra deck. Then draw 2 cards, and you can only activate this effect once per turn, and you cannot special summon the turn you activate this card except Pendulum Monsters. So it would work for this deck. I added this card in for, because it happened in the series, Smile Universe. This special summons as many face-up Pendulum Monsters from your extra deck as possible, but they have their effects negated, and if any, then your opponent gains life points equal to the total of all the attack points originally. That was special summoned by this. You cannot normal summon or special summon other monsters or attack during the turn you activate this effect. You could summon Zark again with that, but what that card does in the end is how Zark loses, and and I'm not going to spoil that. Next, we have Odd Eyes Fusion. Fusion summon 1 Dragon Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion materials. If your opponent controls 2 or more monsters and you control no monsters, you can also use up to 2 Odd Eyes monsters in your extra deck as fusion materials. And you can only activate that once per turn. Swords of Revealing Light stops your opponent from attacking for 3 of the turns. And now we're up to traps. Supreme Rage, which I've told you about. If you control Zark, the Supreme King one, destroy as many monsters that you control as possible, except Zark. And if you do, special summon up to 4 Supreme King Dragon monsters with different names from your hand, your deck, or your extra deck, and or your graveyard, ignoring the summoning conditions. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 Supreme King Dragon Xyz monster you control, attach 2 Supreme King Dragon monsters to it as materials from your graveyard or in your Pendulum Zone. You could use the Supreme King Dragons, summon them all out, and you can give your Xyz 2 extra overlay units to use its effects. And in that turn, you could practically wipe out your opponent in one blast, if you're lucky. Next we have Pendulum Switch. Pardon. You can target 1 card in your Pendulum Zone, special summon it. You can target 1 Pendulum monster in your Monster Zone, place it in your Pendulum Zone. And you can only use this once per turn. So it swaps it out just in case you want to switch your Dragon with your Gateway one. Next we have 2 Pendulum Reborns, and this lets you special summon a Pendulum monster from your extra deck or in your graveyard. So it's kind of good. Next we have Grand Horn of Heaven, and this card's effect during your opponent's main phase. When they would special summon a monster, negate the summon. If you do destroy it, then your opponent draws 1 card. Then end the main phase. Next we have Echo Oscillation. You can target 1 card in your Pendulum Zone, destroy it, then draw 1 card. You can use the effect of this once per turn. And we're up to our extra deck. And it's literally that big, hopefully. I've got enough time. So first we have Zark himself. Pendulum effect. Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz monsters your opponent controls cannot activate their effects. Once per turn, when your opponent adds a card or cards from their deck to their hand, except during the draw phase, you can destroy this card. You can destroy that card or card, sorry, not this card. Next, it's monster effect. 4 dragon type monsters, 1 fusion, 1 synchro, 1 Xyz, 1 pendulum. Must be fusion summoned and cannot be fusion special summoned by other ways. If this card is special summoned, destroy all cards your opponent controls. Cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon 1 Supreme King Dragon monster from your deck or extra deck. If this card is in your monster zone, is destroyed by battle or by card effects, you can place this card in your Pendulum Zone. So that is really quite powerful. And we have Synchros. Clear Wing, which is a level 7. And once per turn, when another level 5 or higher monster activates its effect on the field, its quick effect, you can negate the effect, and if you do, destroy it. Once per turn, when a monster effect is activated that targets a level 5 or higher and no other cards, quick effect, you can negate that activation if you destroy it, and then this card gains its attack points. And until the end of the turn. Next we have Clearwing Supreme King Dragon form. And its effect is, and you need Dark Pendulum monsters to use it, if this card is synchro summoned, you can destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls once per turn. Before damage calculation, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy that monster, and if you do, you inflict damage to your opponent equal to that destroyed monster's original attack. If this card is in your graveyard, you can tribute to a Supreme King Dragon monster's special summon this card. So, powerful. Next we have Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon. When this card is special summoned, you can target 1 card in your Pendulum Zone, special summon it. Also, this card cannot attack for the rest of the turn. You can only activate this effect once per turn. Monsters in your opponent's position cannot activate their effects until the end during the battle phase. So yeah, that's really powerful. Next we have Starving Venom, and it's simpler really. When it's fusion summoned, you can target an opponent's monster, only one, and gain its attack points. But it has to be a special summon monster until the end. And once per turn, you can target level 5 or higher monster your opponent controls until the end of that turn. It becomes this card's original name and replace this card's effect with that effect. And when this card is fusion summoned but destroyed, you can destroy all your opponent's special summon monsters. Next we have Supreme King Dragon Starving Venom. And this needs 2 Dark Pendulum monsters. Must either be special fusion summoned or special summoned by tributing the above cards you control. So again, those original monsters, those 2 monsters I showed you, would definitely work. And you don't have to use polymerization for that. Once per turn, you can target one other monster, either in the field or the graveyard. Until the end phase, this card's name becomes that card's name, and it gains its original effects until the end of the rest. Also, for the rest of this turn, if your opponent attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. So technically, if you can inflict piercing damage if you attack with that card or any other. Next we have Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon. And its fusion effect, when this card is special summoned, you can target one opponent's face-up attack position monster, return it to the hand. When a spell or trap card or another monster's effect is activated, quick effect, you can shuffle one face-up pendulum monster from your extra deck into the deck, negate the activation if you do destroy it, and you can only activate this effect once per turn. And these are our last 4. This card's effect, you can attach both all of its overlay units, aka both of them, target one monster, it loses half of its attack points, and this gains its attack points. And it doesn't sit, and it's permanent, you don't lose any. Doesn't lose it in the end. Next, it's Supreme King form. And this does need 2 Dark Pendulum monsters. Once per turn, before damage calculation, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can attach 1 Xyz material from this card until the end of this turn, change the attack of that face-up monster to 0, and if you do, this card gains that monster's attack. During the battle phase, quick effect, you can return this card to the extra deck, special summon 2 face-up Supreme King Dragon and or Supreme King Gate Pendulum monsters from your extra deck in defense position. So that will give you a good advantage as well. Next, Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. 2 levels, it needs 2 level 7s. When any player's monster declares an attack, you can detach 1 material from this card, negate the attack, and if you do, special summon 1 Odd Eyes monster from your hand or graveyard. If this Xyz summon card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Odd Eyes monster from your extra deck, except this one, and you can only activate this card's effect once per turn. Next, Time Star Magician. Its effect must first be Xyz summoned with the above Xyz materials. Once per turn, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, add it to your hand, 1 Dark Spellcaster type monster from your deck, graveyard, or face up on the field from your extra deck. Once per turn, if a pendulum monster card or cards in your monster zone or pendulum zone would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can send one spellcaster type monster from your deck to the graveyard instead. So that's it. This deck is alright, but like I've said, since it's got the new link format, this deck has become weak. It's not too weak, but it is still weak, in my opinion. Because the problem is, since we've made the Link format, you can't use the overpowering effects of this deck just as Zark did in his duel. So it has got its weakness, but that's its weakness. But it can still use other effects. You can just replace, with this deck, with these cards, you can just replace one another. And you can just bring the other back, bring them back, replace, bring them back. It pretty much has a backup strategy for the backup strategy, which is still quite good. But if you can think of Link monsters you would add into that extra deck, use them. Because even though it would still have its limits, you can still use them. But, you know, other than that, I wouldn't use the Supreme Rage card because you can't use it anymore. No, unless... But I have heard they're making Link spells, and if they do manage to make them, you know, they could help a lot of duelists out who are still getting used to Link summoning. So, until then, this is Sergeant Phoenix, over and out.